Hello and welcome, beloved, to the Dr. Mumbi Show. My name is Dr. Mumbi Saraki. How you doing? How's everything going? I really do pray that you are well in all your ways and that you are moving into living life truly on your own terms. There's never been an opportunity like this for you to move in your own direction, because the matrix, the kind of blueprint that everyone was using before has been totally decimated. We're seeing it slowly, crumbling to pieces, and a new world order is going to take place. But there will also be the emergence of an African world order, if you want to call it that. And that is what our minds and our spirits should be working to. Not what Mzungu is doing. Should we prevent? Should we do this? Should we? No, but we should be looking more at what we want the next 100,000 years to look alike. But those are stories for other days. Thanks to every single person that supports us on our Patreon account. We really appreciate you. We wouldn't be able to do this without your support. And go ahead and consider supporting us for as little as $2 a month. Now, there's a very interesting story that's come out. Africa is so caught up dealing with, the pandemic that they actually haven't, not much has been spoken about over this, because we know that for the last at least a decade, Africa has been trying to get its stolen artifacts from British, French, Portuguese, German, etc., museums, basically foreign museums and the Vatican. All our cultural artifacts, even heads, the skulls of our freedom fighters, the skulls of some of our kings and queens, and some of the very significant cultural artifacts that have a lot of power. That maybe we don't think so. We don't even call them artifacts. They are instruments of power. And someone had actually estimated, one of these researching organizations had estimated that over 90% of Africa's, instruments of power. Let's scratch artifacts and put instruments of power are actually in European vaults and museums, and they're making millions and millions from it. Well, guess what? Thousands of artifacts looted from African towns over a century ago that lined the European and British museums are actually going to, some of them are actually going to be put up for sale in this crazy time by one of the most controversial auctioning houses in the divided kingdom called Christie's. And this British auction house has announced a curated Arts of Africa, Oceania, and North America sale that is set to take place in Paris. And it includes, African art such as the newly discovered Akan terracotta head, some Benin bronzes, which are still, highly contested both by Nigeria and Benin, and the Urohobo figure, which is from Nigeria. And there's actually a Nigerian, artist, or I don't know if they call him an artist or whatever, curator, who has come and said that the Nigerian artifacts that are being sold were actually stolen from Nigeria during the Civil War. And the controversy is that many of these, the Christie's and the Sotheby's, all these are used to be like posh names. They cannot, like the Christie's auction is actually embroiled in controversy because it cannot guarantee the origin, and it cannot show that the origin was not looted, but it actually came through clean channels. And it can only actually, out of maybe the 30-something pieces that they're selling, they can only guarantee the origin of the bronze head as far back as 1890 to 1949, where it was said to be part of Frederick Volknicht's collection. But this has also been proven to be quite questionable. And what these things, they've tried to show through these certificates that it came through clean lines and it's been held by different people, in trying to disconnect from the fact that it could have been stolen from Africa. But it doesn't make sense for an African artifact to be sold by a European auction house. And, this has developed a lot. It has created a lot of controversy. Let's not even forget that just barely a week or 2 weeks ago, there were some African brothers who had actually gone into the museum in Paris and tried to, reclaim, let me not say steal, but reclaim some funeral stick. I'm sure that thing has power. It even looked powerful, which they said they wanted to repatriate back to the Congo. But we're going to see all these things So in fact, they'll be giving them back because once these things are activated, because I keep telling you the ancestors and the ancients are back, these things will give them sleepless nights until they'll just be like, here, Africa, take your things, please. But, auctions of valuable African artifacts, some of which could be identified as candidates for repatriation or reparations, they don't even care. The Christies and the Sotheby's, they're trying to sell these and auction these as quickly as possible before some of these issues have been, resolved. And both Sotheby's and Christie's have actually moved auctions online for this reason, because, people won't be able to attend because of everything that's happening with Corona and the intended economic fallout. But, Africans are keeping a close eye on everything that's going to happen. And, many had actually assumed that auctions like these would actually be on the decline, especially after a high-profile report, I think I've discussed this before, by a Senegalese writer and economist known as Felwine Sarr, who had actually been hired by Macron, French president, and which had called for thousands of African artifacts in French museums taken during the colonial period to be returned to the continent. And we had seen Macron give some flowery speech about how he was going to have a commission now look at giving some of these things back. So it's kind of like a slap in the face that during this pandemic and this economic crisis that is now impending, that they would actually want to hold, this thing in this auction in Paris. And, Macron even said, Africans' heritage must be showcased in Paris, but also in Dakar, in Lagos, and in Cotonou. This will be one of my priorities starting today. And over the next 5 years, I want to move towards allowing the temporary or definite restitution of African cultural heritage to Africa. He said that in 2017, 2020, not much has been done. That's why words are no longer enough, beloveds. We want action now, because we've heard everything. We've heard it over and over and over a million times before. Now we actually want the artifacts. Don't tell us you're giving them back. Bring them back. Tuko pamoja.
Wake up. Wake up, Africa. Your time has come. Open up your eyes and see the sun. Open up your spirit. Wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up. Wake up, Africa.
Hello and welcome to Africa Watch on the Dr. Mumbi Show. My name is Dr. Mumbi Saraki. How you doing? How's everything going? I pray you're well in all that you do, in all your ways, and I pray that you're just living your best life. Thanks to every single person that has supported us through our PayPal and Patreon accounts. We really, really appreciate you. You guys made it possible for us to travel to Ethiopia for the African Union, conference, which ended up being a very, very interesting experience. Thanks to every single person that has, subscribed to the channel. Don't forget to like and share the videos, and make sure you hit that notification button so that you're alerted every single time we upload an episode. Now, some very exciting news is coming out of Lagos. I don't know why, but all of a sudden Nigeria just seems to be, catching the world's attention. And basically, Lagos State has written to the British the British Museum in the United Kingdom, saying they want their stuff back. And this is something, it's been going on for a couple of years, where we're seeing different African nations, including Kenya, start to request that all the artifacts and the cultural artifacts and our instruments of power and our instruments of, leadership, which are holed up in different foreign museums, be given back. And it's absolutely shocking. You know what I found out? Over 90% of Africa's cultural artifacts, religious artifacts, history, scrolls, knowledge is actually outside of the African continent. And we wonder why, as an African people, we lack any kind of real power. Could it be it's because of this? And you know what? And this is a side note that's not even part of the story, but I must share. In Kenya, we're busy requesting the return of our leaders' skulls. These people the colonizers were so sick that they even took the skulls of our great leaders, like the leader of the Kalenjin. He was called Samoy, and he was, He was a great fighter. He was betrayed. Long story, I won't get into it now. But they took his skull and other pieces of his, of his leadership, like the instruments of his leadership that he carried around, and his spear and stuff is still in the UK somewhere. Why would you take someone's skull? But anyway, those are stories for the day. So now the Lagos state government, they wrote to the British Museum in London for the return of an extremely important sculpture wood carving known in the UK as the Lander stool. And what's happening in Lagos is they've actually opened this amazing cultural resource center for the Yoruba community, and also a history center. It's called the John K. Randall Center. It's after this famous philanthropist. They also call him, one of the first socialists in Nigeria. And it's going to be opening up in May 2019. And so their request, which was formally delivered at a 2-day symposium last month on emerging museum projects in Africa, which was actually it was on 2nd February. Sorry, guys. Africa, a British museum initiative in London.